All right. It's perfect now. All
We
right. Hi, Rob. A very good morning to you from this side. How are you doing?
Wonderful. Where are you?
Oh, I'm good as well. We're actually based in India. So I'm from Bollywood and you're the man from Hollywood.
Hollywood. Now you're right now in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
All right. All right.
To let you know what's behind me and me. We're in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I
All
mean,
right. All right. So, Rob, it is really a pleasure to have you with Homecrux today. So, whenever we talk of a movie, we either talk of actors, we talk of directors, we talk of the writers, but one role that is often undermined or not talked about is of a production designer. And we are really grateful and fortunate to have one of the best production designer of a generation with us.
well, you're very kind, and I love you for that, and I appreciate it. Well, I'm happy to be picked on. Particularly when you mentioned Scary Movie, which started a franchise that lasted for years and years and was so much fun to make. And I love that kind of work where it lives forever. So that was one of the good ones. And
Yes,
I've had many good ones, but
we're going to talk about Scary Movie. We are going to talk about Breaking Bad, Russia, Rudy, and a lot of stuff.
oh, okay, we're going to the neck.
All right, we're going to the neck, right? We'll actually start with your childhood first. Where did it all start for you? Tell us about your childhood. Did you always have an affinity for design? How was your childhood like?
Okay, that's easy for me. I grew up in Hollywood, in Laurel Canyon. My mom and dad were in the service and met at the end of the war. And they went boom. My mom was a jazz pianist for USO, and my father was a captain in the Army of the prisoner of war camp in Griffith Park in Hollywood. So I was pretty exotic. And I grew up in Laurel Canyon and went to Wonderland School. My fort, everybody has a fort, when you're a kid. Mine was on the back lot at Disney. So we'd go under the fence and play on the Zorro set. So I got very acquainted to the nature of sets, to the nature of movies. My first movie was King Kong at Grauman's Chinese. That was fantastic. I went, yeah, that's it. My dad ended up being a designer of theme parks and anything themed. So I grew up next to architects designing theme. I had my own board in his office. And so what that really created was a fearless approach to design. They were doing things that weren't normal. And and making those successful allowed me to immediately be fearless in my own work, in my own design. And, I just grew up in the atmosphere, and it was really, Hollywood at that time was a lot of fun. And I won't go through all of the processes I went through. I went through many schools. I was in Vietnam. I got out. I went to the San Francisco Art Institute, which was insane in the late 60s. It was beautiful. I ran to New York and studied with Stella Adler on stage in New York for a couple of years. I came back to LA wanting to claim by that time I had designed sets for her, and I kind of knew that was it for me. So when I came back,
were you doing Broadway or were you doing theater before you went?
Equity waiver. Equity waiver is what I did in New York. No money, having to be clever.
I understand that.
That was a great way to grow up. I didn't have the pressure of Broadway, but I had a great time, and I learned a lot about script breakdown from Stella. I learned so much from her. That was such a good idea for me because no production designer's really done that. And that was just one of the things I fit in there that happened to be valuable to me forever. And again, about creating a fearless approach to the work. Then when it came back to LA, I ended up in Venice Beach, and that was like in the early 70s. And I had a great big studio in a warehouse down there. And I was 2 blocks from Roger Corman Studios. So I would go down there and ask Roger, I'm a designer. I'm a draftsman. I design stuff. Here's my work. He goes, you're on. So I ended up designing every movie as a set designer, every combination, he reused things. It was like insane, but it was great. It was the ultimate school. Simultaneous to that, one of my neighbors was starting Southern California Institute of Architecture, and he invited me to join that. So I did that. So between all of that, I was building my career. And Venice was very good then because there were a lot of indie film houses, the young directors, everybody I met at Roger's studio and worked for indirectly, all hired me for their movies later. I met Wes Craven, who I did a bunch of movies for, including Swamp Thing and all these movies I did for him. And right in there, and Venice being a real hotbed of really cool people interacting, I was called in on a lot of things. And then I worked for David Nichols and Larry Paul as an art director. I worked on a lot of good shows with them, which was great school. By that time I was, getting my tools together, and grateful for that period of time, giving me that much opportunity, which I seized. And finally, it was time for me to be a production designer. I was ready to do my own films. And you get to that point, you understand that, that it is time. And you want to wait till that time that you feel comfortable, because you're in front of a firing squad.
Yes.
From then on in. Your life is in danger from there on in. So you have to pick that moment. And I did it. I picked it. I first worked with Curtis Hanson on his first thing, which was about the kids going down to Tijuana to become men. It's called Tom Cruise's first movie. It was called Losing It. Became iconic and very, it still plays. And I was able to design Tijuana of the mind. So I did 6 city blocks on my first movie. It was a big deal. And but it was so good. It was so good. I had wonderful help and very enthusiastic crew members. So that's where it all began. And of course, after that, just kept building and building.
This is a 3-part interview series. The second part will talk about the rise of Robb Wilson King in Hollywood and will be released on our YouTube channel soon.